Hello everyone, greetings for all. I'm Tamadur Saleh Saeed, creator of Metrology for All platform. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to our platform. We are so excited to start the first online activity by the World Metrology Day 2021 event. Now we will start. Please. I'm deeply honored to present the first talk in this session, my friend Dr. Sarah Osman, who will talk about accuracy in radiotherapy. The question will be at the end of the presentation. Dr. Sarah started working in the field of radiotherapy physics in 2006 with background of physics. Now he is medical physics in Royal Pershing Hospital in UK. Start, Sarah. You can share your screen. Sarah?
Hello?
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 Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
You can share your screen.
Okay. It says that the host disabled participants sharing screen. So if you allow me, please.
Hello. Hello, Sarah? Dr. Sarah.
Hello, Tamadur. I'm trying to share the screen. Yeah, now it's working.
Okay.
Good. All right, thank you. I think you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay, that's perfect. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Tamadur, for inviting me to speak in the World Metrology Day. And so, as you mentioned, my name is Sarah Osman. I'm an old university colleague of Tamadur. We studied together, and I'm very happy to see this platform and to participate in it. I work currently at the Royal Berkshire Hospital Cancer Center as a medical physicist. And today I'm going to give an overview of the accuracy in radiotherapy, or I can put it as my experience. So the plan of the talk is as follows. I'll first give a brief introduction to radiotherapy for treating cancer, and then about the ionetic radiation regulations that we follow, the aim of the treatment, codes of practice, and about the Metrology Institute here in the UK, which is the National Physics Laboratory, NPL. Now I'll attempt to speak very quickly about the radiotherapy process and challenges in terms of accuracy, and with some concluding remarks. So I apologize for starting with these shocking statistics of cancer, that 1 in 2 people will develop some sort of cancer during their lifetime, and more than 50% will require radiotherapy during their treatment. So you can use radiotherapy for curing the cancer or for controlling the symptoms. If your intent is curative, then there are different settings that you can use the radiotherapy. So you can use it after surgery, or before surgery, or as stand-alone treatment, or with chemotherapy. And the radiotherapy modalities that are commonly used are either external beam radiotherapy, and that is delivered with photons, electrons, protons, or other particles, or internal radiotherapy, that is like brachytherapy or the work of radiopharmaceuticals. So in the first figure, you see a linear accelerator that is used for external beam radiotherapy. There have been so many advances in linear accelerators that are very accurate to deliver radiation doses to the tumor and avoid organs at risk. And this is another example of the low dose brachytherapy seeds in the prostate. So this is the internal anatomy. And what you see there in the middle with the different colors is the prostate with the little seeds, radioactive seeds that are left there permanently. So there are different types of brachytherapy. There was a nice talk this morning where the speaker explained about the different modalities of radiotherapy. So I'm not going to go into detail, but in general, this is just a very brief background. And in terms of radiotherapy departments for cancer treatment, we work in a safety critical environment, so we are highly regulated. There are legislations from the UK government that guides our work and gives instructions, duties and responsibilities and so on. And we are also, so these are the two main frameworks that we work under. And the first one is the ionizing radiation regulation, and the other one is the ionizing radiation medical exposure regulations. And these are really the rules that, and the legislations that we work under and we have to follow. And we are also, like the Care and Quality Commission enforces these regulations. They are very extensive. It's not the time to go into detail, but it tells you the whole framework of the department. How do you get a license to practice radiotherapy? What are the roles and responsibilities, and what you need to do in terms of training of staff, keeping your equipment, and everything really. Even the education programs that people have to follow to be able to work in such environment. What is important here, and I want to highlight, is that as with everything with radiation, so the major things are minimizing unintended radiation, justifying each exposure by weighing the benefits and risks, optimizing the doses that we deliver. So what is the aim of the treatment? It's very clear that we are looking to kill the cancer and spare organs at risk, or not to adversely affect the quality of life of the patients that we treat. And what do you see here in the figure is that called the dose response curve that has a sigmoid shape. And we know that there is a clear relationship between the tumor control probability and the absorbed dose. So on the x-axis, you see the cumulative dose, arbitrary units, any units. And on the y-axis, you see the tissue response, or in other words, you can think of it as cell kill or tumor control probability, and also normal tissue control probability, because it's all like there are different cells and they're so close together. And if you hit with the radiation, you will target both. So we also know that there is considerable evidence that the tumor is only dead when you kill all the cancer cells. So in this figure, if we want to treat this patient, what we can do is to deliver this dose. And this way, you see the blue line, this is the tumor, that we have a probability of 100% of curing this or killing all the cancer cells. But look at the organs at risk. So this is the number of cells, or the normal tissue complication probability is very minimal. And this is a good scenario. But in reality, unfortunately, the two curves for the tumors and also for the organs at risk are so close together. So if you want to deliver again a dose that kills 100% of the cancer cells, you end up with 100% normal tissue complication, which is something that you don't want. The other thing that we know and can help in this situation is that cancer cells are more radiosensitive. So if we fractionate the treatment, give it in little fractions, we will give time to the cancer cell, give time to the normal tissue cells to recover between fractions, and we deliver the next day and the next day and so on. And this way we can reduce the side effects of radiation. The thing is, with fractionated treatments, it becomes even more challenging to accurately deliver the same dose to the same place every day. And this will come in the coming slides. Why is this important? Why is accuracy important? Clinical trials and adoption of clinical protocols rely heavily on the consistency of those measurements. If we don't have standardization in terms of those measurements, it means that the treatments that we deliver do not meet the requirements set by the ICRU. That's why we follow clear guidance and codes of practice, and these are just 3 examples of current work codes of practice we use for MV photon beams and also for low dose or intermediate energy photons and also for electrons. And we work very closely with the National Physics Laboratory, which is the main metrology institute in the United Kingdom. They provide services for the hospitals in terms of radiotherapy and diagnostic and radiation dosimetry services. And this is a slide just showing what they provide us with, and I highlighted here the traceability chain of our equipment, and also they maintain the primary standards in the UK. They developed or helped in developing the codes of practice, they participate in it, and they also support the implementation of new radiotherapy modalities in different hospitals. So these are just examples of what I've encountered. I have to mention that I only recently moved to the clinic. I was a researcher for a very long time, but I was very impressed with the work that we do together with the National Physics Laboratory, because with the NPL, they provide calibration service for example, here you see a pharma chamber that we send the secondary standard that we keep in the hospital to the NPL. They calibrate it and they send it with source with a chamber certificate where we have the calibration factors to measure the absorbed dose in the clinic, in clinical settings. And we get the secondary standard and we use that to calibrate all our equipment in the hospital or pharma chambers that we use for different machines. And this is what is called a traceability chain or a daisy chain. In this way, we know that the dose that we're measuring with the equipment that we have in the hospital is actually following the up to standard nationally. They also, this is another example where we implemented a new service that's hypofractionation for lung cancer in the Royal Berkshire Hospital. And we asked the NPL to audit, to conduct a dosimetry audit. And they visited the hospital and they also provided us with a phantom. We sent them our results. They checked our results, reanalyzed our data, and they sent us report of accuracy that we achieved in our clinic. And the nice thing is that, well, you see in green, we passed this and we actually treated our first patient last week with Sabre. But the nice thing, they also give you an indication of all the other centers, and you see here in the plot the pass rates from other centers and how we're doing nationally. And that was very assuring also for the delivery of our treatment. So in general, as I said, it's a big topic, but I will try to give an overview of the radiotherapy process and the accuracy challenges. So the radiotherapy process is quite intensive in terms of what we do with the patients and in terms of the tests and the data that we get from the patients. But what is important is to see on the top left here that we start with the diagnosis, patient assessment. I'm going down now. I don't know if you can see my cursor. Imaging and simulation, treatment planning, treatment, and then we check the outcome of the treatment. So in terms of diagnosis, I would not spend time on this because it's mainly up to the doctors to diagnose. We help, of course, and support, especially that doctors rely heavily on imaging with ionizing and non-ionizing radiation. But what I'm going to talk about is the research process, imaging, and simulation. So as I said earlier, that the treatments are usually fractionated. So we need to immobilize the patients to start with, because we need to reproduce the setup of the patient or the way that the patients are positioned when we acquire a CT scan of them to plan the treatment and all the way through the treatment. So we use different devices, and you can see here that we have like a cushion, a vacuum cushion, where patients lie, and there are some knee rests, and all of it to keep the patients comfortable at the same time to reduce the possibility that they move during the treatment. And then we miss the tumors and irradiate organs at risk. And depending on the patient and depending on the dose that we deliver, as I said, we deliver usually low dose per fraction that will allow normal tissues to recover between fractions. But more recently, like the technique that we just implemented uses high dose per fraction, and that becomes even more important to accurately position the patient daily. So in terms of the CT scanner, we also QA the CT scanner. We do mechanical, optical, and imaging checks on the CT scanner on a regular basis to make sure that the intensities mean what we see, so the Hounsfield units of the image, because we use that in the calculation of the dose that we deliver to the patients. The CT scan is then sent to the doctors where they outline the tumor. For instance, this is a prostate cancer patient. In green, you see the prostate. In red, you see the rectum. And actually, the rectum is an organ at risk that you want to spare. But you see how close they are. So it's very important to be very accurate when you target this type of tumor. And then, as I said, the doctor that outlines the tumor, and this is what is known as the gross tumor volume, or the GTV, and this is what the doctor sees on the CT scan or the MRI. They outline this, but we also apply clinical target volume margins around the GTV, and this is to cover the microscopic disease that doctors cannot see on the CT scan. But there is another thing, as I said, for fractionated treatment, because you also have other uncertainties in terms of patient positioning, and also patients breathe. So they move. So you have to allow like a margin of error around that target so that you irradiate the tumor all the time. And you try to keep that as small as possible at the same time to try to avoid the organs at risk around the area. So there are different types of errors. So there are systematic errors and they are random errors, but there are also known formulas like this formula here for constructing margins. So we use these margins on our CT, and then the patient is ready for treatment planning. So what do we do in terms of treatment? There are treatment planning systems. The accuracy of them are becoming better and better with time, with the computer speed, and they're quite accurate. But we need to feed them data, and you know that data is important. So what do? So we have to characterize our LINAC, for instance, and we use for that plotting tanks like this with ionization chambers and with different types of detectors. And we use plotting tanks filled with water because they are tissue equivalent in a way. And at the same time, we characterize the beam that is coming, the radiation beam that is coming from the linear accelerator, and we feed this data into the treatment planning system. And this way you can allow your treatment planning system to calculate the dose in the patient. This is done at commissioning and also after major repairs, but we also routinely check the beam data using surrogate devices like the Schuster diode array that you see in this picture. We are then ready to plan our treatment. The treatment is planned and you think that we can treat now, but no, we have another step that we do before then, and that's we do patient-specific QA. So the patient-specific QA is we deliver the dose as if we are delivering it to the patient, but we use for that different things. Here you see an example of a film dosimetry. So we use gas chromic films, and what you see in the middle here, the panel G, is the prostate treatment, and this is a prostate with pelvic lymph nodes. And also here on the left, you see different little films that we ready to different doses. And depending on the optical density of the film, you can create a calibration curve that you can use to convert your optical density into dose. And then we compare this dose with the dose that we planned in the treatment planning system. And we have tolerance levels for the agreement. And then this decides if the treatment is accurate enough to be delivered to the patient. We do this also for using other devices. So we use also point dose measurements in phantoms for highly focused treatment. And you see here also on the left that we deliver also to arrays, and we do gamma analysis, which is again a check between the treatment planned and the one delivered. And then we are ready to deliver our treatments. Just checking the time. I'm still okay, I think. So you deliver the treatment and you have the fractionated treatment and you need image guidance for that. There are different ways of image guidance, but everything is done to ensure that you are accurately delivering your treatment in fractionated settings. But we also have to be practical. So we have tolerance levels. So if the accuracy is within 2 millimeters for normal treatments, we don't apply shifts. But sometimes it's more, then you have to apply shifts and delay your treatment a little bit. Sometimes the internal anatomy will be completely different for different reasons. Sometimes the patients will have edemas, and then you know that the intended treatment is not delivering what you want really anymore, so you have to replan these patients. So accuracy is key, really. And then after the patient is treated, then we have the outcome. And this is actually what we work towards. So we want good local control and we want a good quality of life in terms of reducing toxicity that is associated with radiation. And the endpoint that we look at and we can trust is the survival, patient survival. So we know disease-free survival or recurrence-free survival and overall survival. And this way, if we are sure or we have confidence in our systems, we can minimize, justify, and optimize the radiation doses that we deliver based on evidence. So in conclusion, accuracy is key in evidence-based precision medicine. And this is critical, especially when we are dealing with ionizing radiation. Codes of practice and task group reports provide clear guidance on how to improve our accuracy in radiotherapy. But we also need local rules and clear work instructions and reporting procedures. And this will result in direct benefit to the patients, health workers, and to the public. And standardization and harmonization will help us improve future patients' treatments as well. Thank you so much for your listening. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them at the end, I think, some of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sarah Osman, for your nice presentation. She explained the accuracy in the radiotherapy. This definitely shows that important role of metrology to our life. The next part of the session will be special contribution from PTB. Please allow me to thank them for their great contribution and endless support. Especially Dr. Janin Fisher, Head of Section of International Cooperation, Middle East and North Africa, who reacted positively to our activities. Also, my gratitude extend to BTB International Cooperation Group, Madeleine Martin and Dr. Christine Fork-Wimmer, and BTB Internal Group on Health, Dr. Anit Rodgar and Dr. David Orbach. I hope I said your names correctly. The first contribution, brief presentation about International Cooperation Group by Madeleine Martin and Christine Fork-Wimmer, International Cooperation Group. Madeleine Martin currently works as a project coordinator on the International Cooperation Group of the BTB. Christine Fork-Wimmer, PhD, is pharmacist by profession with over 15 years of working experience in the areas of quality assurance, medicines, regulation, and quality infrastructure. You can start.
You see my screen now?
Yes.
Wonderful. I think my colleague Madeleine might have some technical issues because I don't see her anymore in the participants list, so I just start on her behalf. So good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to shortly introduce PTB and especially the international cooperation. PTB is, as you have already said, Tamador, is the German National Metrology Institute. We have quite a long history, so PTB has existed for over 130 years. We are based in Germany, obviously, and we have locations in Braunschweig and in Berlin with around 2,000 participants. And we are one of the global players in the world of metrology. PTB has also a wing that deals with international development cooperation already since around 50 years. And we do that on behalf of our Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, we call it BMZ. And here we cooperate with developing and emerging countries, especially in the field of quality infrastructure. So it's not only related to metrology, but to the broad field of QI. That also involves other aspects. We have a lot of partner countries and regions. So we have right now over 55 projects in 85 countries, which is a lot. So we have many bilateral partners, and we have around over 30 bilateral projects and 23 regional projects, and also one super regional project. I will talk about that more later on. Financially, we have a volume of over 17 million annually for this development cooperation, and 62 employees who are in charge of our projects. As I said, this is not only metrology, so we deal with the whole network of quality infrastructure, which also involves, of course, inspection, accreditation, testing, certification, and conformity assessment. I'll briefly introduce one, let's say, example project where we are active in international cooperation. As I said, we work with many countries, and this example project here is the project where we work on the continental level, the Pan-African level. And this is one of our bigger projects. So here in this project, we cooperate with the African Union Commission. This is our political partner, as well as with the Pan-African Quality Infrastructure institutions. I'm sure that you know AfriMets, which is the Intra-Africa Metrology System, but we also cooperate with AFRAC, the African Accreditation Corporation, with AFSEC. They are the institution who deals with the electrotechnical standardization, and with ARSO, they are the African Organization for Standardization. Besides these Pan-African quality infrastructure institutions, we also work with the RECs, with the regional economic communities, like EAC in East Africa, or ECOWAS and others. So together with these partners that we have, we do a lot of initiatives and activities to support economic integration in Africa through the African Continental Free Trade Agreement implementation. This particular project is again commissioned by our Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, and will run until 2023. Our topic today is metrology for health. So I would like to highlight what we do in the health sector. We are also active in other sectors and areas. But in the health sector, with our partner institution, we work towards strengthening of the pharmaceutical regulation, quality assurance, and quality control. So we support especially trainings, capacity development with regard to inspection, testing, and market surveillance. We support framework conditions for local development and production of medicines. What is also an interesting aspect that will be more important, of course, due to the current COVID situation, will be vaccines and also medical devices. So as I said, we mainly focus on capacity development and awareness raising. And here we work with manufacturers, with quality control laboratories, and with the regulators. I'd like to highlight some activities that we do. This is, for example, we've developed a 3-week e-learning course on hygiene concepts, cross-contamination risks, and cleaning validation. For the pharmaceutical sector, as you may know, this is this largely addresses the good manufacturing practice, which are very important standards for the pharmaceutical sector. We've also developed a training on quality risk management for pharmaceutical laboratories. We have developed and we carry out regular trainings on ISO 7025 for the testing laboratories in the pharmaceutical sector. Then for the herbal and traditional medicines, we have good manufacturing practice courses For example, we have a 6-week basic GMP course for producers and regulators in herbal medicines area. Then we do proficiency testing schemes. We have very good cooperation with the Muhimbili University in Tanzania. They are ISO 17043 accredited, and together with them, we carry out proficiency testing schemes for the pharmaceutical testing labs. And another example is pharmacovigilance. This is drug safety. So we conduct trainings, capacity development in this important field of drug safety. And as you can imagine now with the COVID pandemic, drug safety, handling of side effects is of course more and more important. So here you can see some of publications that we have done. For example, accreditation of medical laboratories for PCR testing, chemical waste management for laboratories, or quality infrastructure for the health sector. We have a lot of publications and materials that are available under our PTB website, so please check it out. And I would also like to highlight that we have developed a COVID-19 response task force and website. You can see that here. It's www.covid19ptb.de. And there you can find a lot of materials that are related to COVID. For example, medical protective materials, standards, quality testing and approval, testing of respiratory equipment, calibration of infrared thermometers, and yeah, many other topics. And we continuously update this website, so please check it out. And also I'd like to say that if you're interested in any of the courses that we do under this international cooperation, feel free to get in touch. We are happy to work together and also maybe address other topics that might be of interest. So this was a very brief introduction of what we do in international cooperation. I'd like to thank you, Tamador, for this initiative. It's very good to be here. And I'm also happy that other colleagues from PTB joined us and will give more information of what PTB is doing in this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christine. And where, Madeleine?
Yeah, thank you, Tamador. I'm very, very sorry. And not only that I missed the beginning of the session due to technical problems, but also that very moment when you called my name, my internet connection got cut off. I'm so sorry. And then I tried to rush myself to be connected. And then I saw that Christina, thankfully, has already taken over. I'm very grateful. Thank you, Christina, for your spontaneous reaction. I'm really sorry. Yeah, but I would also like to thank you, Tamador, and your network for having this opportunity today to present PTB and our international cooperation group. And I would like to extend my greetings and gratitude to all of you who are participating today from near and far, and thereby also promoting to today's World Metrology Day. And of course, to all who made this event possible. And yeah, let me just once more apologize.
Okay, sorry, no problem. Thank you very much, Madeleine and Christine, for the nice presentation. My friend Sarah Osman, who is the co-host, will run the rest of the session. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi. Thank you again, Christina and Madeleine, for the nice talk. And now we're going to welcome Dr. David Orbach. Is this how you pronounce your name?
Yes, that's right. So should I go first? I guess in the program it
okay.
was Annette, but I can go first, so no problem.
Oh, is it? Oh, I apologize. I I will follow the program if that's okay.
Fine for me.
I'm not very well prepared. I will welcome Dr. Anita now and later Dr. David. She is the head of the German Metrology Institute Division of Ionizing Radiation, and she's a coordinator of a large project under the European Metrology Program for Innovation and Research. And today she's going to talk to us about the European Metrology Network concept on radiation protection IR projects.
So I just shared my screen. I hope you will be able to see it. Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for Sarah for the introduction, and thank you Tamador for this kind invitation. Today we have World Metrology Day, so metrology brings us together, and we are talking about health, measurement for health. And if you want to apply ionizing radiation to bring innovation and improvement in healthcare, then you run automatically into a question for radiation protection. And so we thought it fit to show you something which is an European initiative under our regional metrology organization, that is Euromed. Maybe it is helping you, you can get into contact with this organization, which is a metrological network. And you see that there are a large number of different NMI and DIs who already gathered here to support each other in this difficult task to bring radiation protection metrology into all fields, especially to medicine. And we have a lot of support here. So we have other people joining us. Here you see also not only metrology institutes, but you see here that there are other institutes joining into this network as well. So the idea of radiation protection for different issues bring us together, and we want to support each other in service, in capacity building, and of course in knowledge sharing. So why is radiation protection an issue in metrology? Metrology means to measure is to know. But sometimes in radiation protection, you do not even know where, how, and what to measure. What do you have for, what kind of radiation do you really have? Do you have alpha, beta, gamma radiation, X-rays? Do you have neutrons? Do you have, for example, pulsed fields? So it's very difficult and a little bit distinct from normal metrology. And on the other hand, what is motivating us is that there is an increasing radiation exposure worldwide. And this is due to technical and medical improvements, but also due to increasing urbanization and change of living conditions. So natural sources play a further important role in radiation protection. So this is data coming from the International Atomic Energy Agency, and it reflects the development. Let's take a look what is radiation protection like. We have normally an average dose of about 3 millisieverts per year. The main contribution is a natural part, but the medical part is growing. So for today, if we are talking about medical applications, then we have to think always about radiation protection. Safe application of ionizing radiation is the fundament to provide new medical and technological achievements and solutions. So when we talk about improvement of living conditions, protection and health, we mean protection of health of everybody and of the environment. Euromed's approach is to implement so-called European metrology networks. You see here highlighted in blue some of them. Mathematics, lab medicine, you will hear the talk about from David later, quantum technology, climate and ocean, and others. And we thought in the development that one should be added here, and this is radiation protection, supporting all parts, medical and technological applications. What are we doing now in the moment? So we have this European Metrology Network under the roof of our regional metrology organization, Euromet. And there is normally two pillars, technical committee and research program. And now we have a third pillar here, that is the network. We started rather recently. So it's a kickoff meeting of the project was 2020. So we are a young network, and it's a pleasure to present it to you, to get your ideas here for our network. We had a kickoff meeting, and the network wants to be at the core of the needs of the people, of the users. So this is called the stakeholder. So first we have to address them, identify them, have a communication with them. And then we can understand where the needs are. The needs might be different from hospital to technical or industrial or environmental application. We want to be reachable for our stakeholders. So we will implement a web portal. We will collect information about capacity. And this is important. Europe has a lot of small countries, and there is a lot of work to do. So we have to share our capacities. And this is a difficult process. To understand this, we have to do a gap analysis to understand what is missing and to understand what is doubled. We want to share information from one NMI to another NMI, but also to the non-NMI partners, and create early actions by this. And the final goal is really smart specialization, not to do duplication, but to support each other by adding services. So this is in the moment, the project. We will run our proposal for the EMN. It's supported by Euromet. And I think this is interesting. With all the partners, we collected already a number of so-called full-time equivalent people. So this is staff people who will work in this EMN. So we have more than 200 people directly involved in the metrology of radiation protection. So this is a large group and an interesting discussion. We are publishing newsletters regularly. You can find about this, and if you're interested, just send me an email and I put you on our email distribution list so you can see what's happening in this EMN. And of course, we need to extend our discussion to you and to everybody who is involved in radiation protection. And this is a quite large group. So we have not only NMI and DI, we have also the accredited tested and testing laboratories, the calibration laboratories, dosimetry, the authorities for radiation protection, the regulatory authorities. We have international organizations like the agency or the ICRP or ICRU. We have consultant or radiation experts, standard developing organization like IEC and ISO. We have the manufacturers and the industry. And very important for you for today, the medical physics at the departments at a hospital with specific problems for radiation protection to be solved. So this is what we have to do in communication. So in the first step, we had a stakeholder committee established. We had run a gap workshop in 2020 to identify the gaps in radiation protection, to understand where something is missing. There is a CCRI webinar on this network. It's a little bit longer than my talk today, so it's nearly 1 hour. You can watch it on YouTube. And we have some interaction on the European level in the moment. So this is with Euromet, of course. This is with Eurados. Some of you might know this is a strong network for application of radiation protection. And we have interactions worldwide. So we are open to discuss issues with other regional metrology organizations. This is why I'm here today with you. We have contribution and promotion from the BIPM as well from the International Atomic Energy Agency. So feel free, feel invited to join in this discussion, contribute with your needs. And here you can see what we already did, what we have collected in potential contributions from the NMIDI, but also from the non-NMIDI. And I hope this was interesting for you as a model to think about how you can combine capacity in your network also. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Roger, for this nice presentation. It's very nice to see the effort that you have put into this and bringing all these factors together. I think we have time for questions at the end of the session after all the talks, if that's okay. Thank you so much. Now, again, we welcome Dr. David Orbach. He is a project manager at the German National Metrology Institute. With a background of chemistry, a PhD in chemistry, he currently working as secretary also for Euromet, European Metrology Network on traceability in laboratory medicine, and as a coordinator for the PTB steering group for medicine. Today's talk title is Introducing the Euromet, European Metrology Network on traceability in laboratory medicine. Welcome.
Thank you, Sarah, for introducing me. And first of all, happy Metrology Day. Thanks, Tamador, for inviting me. As Sarah already said, I'm going to introduce to you one of the existing European metrology networks, the one on traceability in laboratory medicine. I'm probably go a bit quicker over this slide because Annette already quite nicely introduced the concept itself. So TraceLabMed is a network that is devoted to the societal challenge of health. And the network brings together the expertise and strength of the European NMIs and DIs to better respond to the stakeholder needs by providing measurement traceability in the field of laboratory medicine as an important factor for accurate and comparable patient results. So now, what do we mean by accurate and comparable results? So if you go to a physician and they request a lab test for diagnostic purposes, your physician at the end of the day needs to interpret the results. And this is done by comparing your result with other information. And this information might be a clinical decision point. So this would be a value from experts based on clinical studies. It might be a reference interval from cohort studies of healthy people, or it might just be your previous result taken in the same facility or in another lab. But the bottom line here is that your results are interpreted by comparison. And the comparison can just be as good as their common anchor. So the central role of any NMI and DI is the coordination of national activities to ensure that measurements within their country are comparable, and to facilitate world trade and to aid the global advancement of science and engineering. NMIs and DIs compare the national standards in international comparisons organized by the consultative committees of the CIPM, the International Committee of Weight and Measures. So the aim of these comparisons is to assess the equivalence of national standards for enabling fit-for-purpose assessment of measurements on a global scale. So a tried and tested route to enabling this globally accepted long-term comparability of measurements is by making the results traceable to a fundamental physical constant. The concept of traceability is more easily understood and accepted for physical measurement results, which Annette also said before. There are fields where it's more complicated, and there are the ones that are a bit easier to grasp. And if we look at the traceability chains for a physical measurement, such as the one here, you could in the past compare all measurements to the same physical standard. And nowadays, this linking can often be realized by a relatively small amount of primary measurement procedures performed by NMIs and DIs that link the experimental results to the relevant fundamental constant. If we look at clinical laboratory measurements, it's a bit more complicated. Here, medical laboratories aim to determine the amount of specific biomarker in a specific biological fluid. And for amount of substance, the fundamental constant used is the Avogadro's constant. The unit is the mole. And in order for this to be realized for different clinical measurements, purified standards of the elemental or molecular entity are rather often required. So if you go to the doctor, and it's usually the case that they measure or request many biomarkers routinely. And for each of these targets, NMIs are required to have a purified primary calibrator to act as the final link to Avogadro's constant, which also requires a primary purity calibration facility with the capability to characterize many different types of molecules. And it is the case that often in chemical measurements, overcoming interferences from the background matrix provides the greater challenge in routine testing than sourcing a purified primary calibrator. And to circumvent this, in clinical testing methods, calibrators used are often present in the same matrix as the samples. They are then matrix matched. And NMIs and DIs have developed advanced reference measurement procedures to transfer the traceability from the pure substance reference materials to a matrix matched reference materials that can then be used as calibrators or quality control materials by manufacturers or routine testing laboratories. Developing these primary methods is obviously labor intensive, especially if you want to achieve the lowest possible measurement uncertainty. But this is required and is key for accurate and comparable results. So, and if you look at the European Union, the comparability of patient measurement results is of such importance that the traceability of calibrators and control materials is a regulatory requirement. And usually European legislation goes hand in hand with harmonized standards that can then be used by stakeholders to achieve legal certainty. So in the field of lab medicine, we have, for instance, the ISO 15189, which specifies requirements for quality and competence in medical laboratories. It's a standard that is mandatory for laboratory accreditation in some European countries, and it requires laboratories to verify and document the metrological traceability of their measurement procedures. So this means that at the end of the day, they need to document the traceability, while the responsibility to ensure traceability and provide the respective information lies with the manufacturers. And they themselves can refer to the ISO 17511 to demonstrate traceability. And this is a standard that obviously needs to cope with the fact that traceability to the SI is only realized for a small share of clinical measurements by referring the trueness then in these cases to a lower level of the calibration hierarchy. So this could be, for instance, manufacturer's working calibrator or selected measurement procedure. And this is then until an internationally agreed reference measurement procedure and or calibrator becomes available. That small share I'm referring to is currently makes to about 10 to 15% of the routinely requested medical tests. And this obviously leads to the risk of poor comparability in many other cases. But at the same time, there's an inherent trust of patients and lab results. So I guess that the majority of people do not question their test results. And to provide the sector with pure and matrix reference materials, as well as the associated reference measurement procedures, would require considerable resource and effort from an individual NMI, and therefore we gathered a group of 12 NMIs and DIs from 9 countries to align their activities to ensure the necessary services and standards to support the sector are available. So these activities are coordinated in the European Metrology Network on Traceability in Laboratory Medicine, and we defined a set of objectives, which I will now talk you through. So if we again look at the IVDR, there are the European Reference Laboratories, which is a new concept. And what they do is that they are responsible for the testing of high-risk IBDs, so-called Class D IBDs. So for instance, this would be like HIV diagnostic tests. And according to the IVDR, they're obliged to provide recommendations on suitable reference materials and reference measurement procedures of higher metrological order. But if we look at the laboratories that apply as the reference laboratories, so for Germany, this would be the Paul-Ehrlich Institute. They are not active in the field of metrological research themselves. So we obviously want to help in those specific areas that can be supported by the metrology community. This could be, for instance, methods in the realm of molecular biology, such as digital PCR. We want to coordinate the NMI's and DI's activities and work closely with stakeholders, such as IVD manufacturers, the JCTLM, EQA providers, lab professionals, clinical experts, to ensure that reference measurement services and CMCs are in place to demonstrate traceability to the SI. And developing new reference materials and reference measurement procedures is, as I said before, time and money consuming process. And we consequently need to rank the priority clinical measurements in terms of stakeholder needs to ensure that our work is focused appropriately. Using the information gathered, we can identify gaps in current knowledge in establishing and maintaining traceability to enable a coordinated and top-down initiated research in support of metrological traceability that in turn delivers the highest benefits. And by pursuing this approach, we want to establish a service-oriented metrology infrastructure that goes beyond research, but also includes, for instance, the provision of training and information material, as well as an efficient way of communicating with NMIs and DIs. So now to end my talk, I'll give you a few examples where our members supported the fight against COVID-19. The first example is the development of a potential reference method for identifying SARS-CoV-2 and the determination of the viral load. So obviously the measurement of nucleic acids is crucial for COVID-19 testing, where we typically detect the genetic material, so the RNA of the coronavirus. And PTB and LGC have started working together, and they are also cooperating with NIST. And as a key outcome of this cooperation, the method of droplet digital PCR was adapted to SARS-CoV-2 RNA. And obviously the main advantage here is that using digital droplet PCR is a direct counting procedure. And as such, you can quantify virus RNA without the need of an additional calibrator. So there have been, and we also participated in, I guess it was up to now 4 ring trials organized by Instant, which is a German external quality assurance provider. And yeah, obviously, this cooperation helps to advance the international standardization, and it also helps to define test performance criteria to provide more confidence and better comparability of diagnostic test results. In this way, the NMI support the dissemination of metrological expertise to the routine laboratories, and this obviously also helps the patients as the end users. And in the next step, the method must be validated internationally, which happens in the CCQM pilot study P199, with the final aim to establish it as a reference measurement procedure. The second example is about the development of reference materials and standards to fight against the spread of the coronavirus. This activity is driven by the UK's National Institute for Biological Standards and Control, NIBSC. And the NIBSC is responsible for developing biological standards and reference materials to underpin the effective use of diagnostics, vaccines, and biotechnology products. And to support the European efforts for tackling the pandemic, the NIBSC has fast-tracked the development of key reference materials and research reagents. And one of the key outcomes here was that there are 2 CE-marked materials available that both fulfill the requirements of the ISO 15189, so the standard I already mentioned earlier. And just recently, additional international standards for anti-SARS-CoV-2 immunoglobulin, and also for SARS-CoV-2 RNA were developed at the NIBSC and were then evaluated in international collaborative studies, and they are now available for researchers, manufacturers, and regulators worldwide for the purpose of harmonizing serological and molecular assays. So if you want to find out more about COVID-19 related activities and also around the World Metrology Day this year, please visit our webpage. And if you have any questions or just want to drop us a message, then use this email address. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Orbach, for your very interesting presentation. And I think we can have questions now. If any of the participants, you can raise your hand if you have any questions for the presenters. Yeah.
So feel free to do. I was trying to answer in the chat, but this is not not very efficient. So if you have further questions, just let us know. It's difficult to explain things sometimes in a few words.
I don't see any raised hands there, but maybe I can start with just a simple question for all our presenters. So one of the main or the important aspects is to attract people into the field of metrology, and also like to share the knowledge with school students maybe, or young people to get them more interested in participating or go into a career into metrology. Is this something that you do also as in the German Metrology Institute? Do you have programs for young people and females as well to go into the field?
So I'm not sure who is going to answer for PTB, but I can start with this. Yes, we do. We have summer schools, for example. We hold close relations to universities, so it's important that we support the universities in their field and are attractive for students to do their bachelor, master, and PhD here in PTB. And I think these summer schools were very effective because this was a special program organized here in PTB for a group. So it's a group event with young people coming together, working on interesting topics which have metrology at the core. Maybe some colleague could add something what I have forgotten.
So, I mean, you could probably add that there are even like practical courses for pupils from secondary school, because they here have to like each year there's each of one class goes to I guess it's 1 or 2 days where they visit companies or research facilities to learn something about the work there, and PTB is also offering this opportunity for pupils.
Maybe I can add from development cooperation side, we have a lot of cooperation with universities. We also try to support vocational training, where we have a link between university theoretical training and then practical training, trying to cooperate with industries in the various sectors that we work in. So yeah, we do that, definitely.
Very, very good to hear, attracting young people into the field. And I'm going to push it a little bit with this question. If this is available for people outside Germany as well, I'm just thinking of people like young people back home. They have huge potential, but we maybe not have the same possibilities that we have here in Europe. Are these courses or programs open also for people from developing countries, for instance?
This depends, of course, of what kind of form of organization we have here. So, for example, if we cooperate with a university, you should be a student of this university, obviously. But for example, if you think about our research programs, and I was already addressed in the chat for Metrology, there is a cooperation with different NMIs, DIs. So in the scope of this, there is also the possibility to broaden our view, to have other people joining as a collaborator in these projects. And this, of course, is then open. There's also, I think, a special program, Researcher Mobility Grant, where you can even generate a little bit of funding for this hospitality if you want to go to a special NMI or DI. But the drawback is you have to be from an NMI or DI.
But there's also obviously like these very general things like the German academic exchange service, where you can apply for grants, and there are many type of other such things. There's also from the European Union Interreg program, where they fund research between European countries and non-European countries. So I guess there are plenty of opportunities for such things.
Again, from the international cooperation side, of course, we mainly cooperate with the developing and emerging countries. For example, we've just yesterday launched a new project in Ghana, which is cooperation with the Ghana Standard Authority, and we support them towards becoming a full national metrology institute. And there's a lot of cooperation between university and then also mentoring programs, for example, with Kenya, with South Africa, and then of course our PTB at home. And this is, yeah, of course, tries to build capacities, involve young students and young people in general. So yeah, there's a lot of activities going on.
Thank you so much for your answers. And I'm very happy to hear all these talks today. There is huge potential. And thank you to Mother for organizing this. And hopefully in the future meetings or events, we will be able to come together now that we know the background of the PTB and the different participants in this platform. We can maybe develop projects together or something, but thank you so much. Tamado?
Thank you. Thank you so much, all participants and PTB group and Dr. Sarah, and also this session. See you, inshallah, in next event. Thank you again for all.
Thank you very much.
Okay, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.